Hey, welcome back. As you've come to know and love, he's Mike, I'm Ryan, and this is Eggs. This is Eggs. This is Eggs.
What's Eggs?
Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we'll talk about the process of growing your eggs from start to finish.
What's up? How you doing?
Oh, man, doing good. So super busy this week. It's a madhouse at work, and we've just got 100 things going on. Crazy client demands, late nights, the whole thing. So it's been kind of a struggle this week.
Well,
so,
you know, struggles make you stronger, I guess.
It's true. The struggle is real, however, despite what you've heard.
Yeah, working on another rock wall, and I blew up a gas line this did I tell you about that?
No.
I was digging a stump out, and we had called 811 to check for gas and water and all that stuff, and we forgot that we were pulling that stump out and didn't have them check up there, so we were digging out the stump and ripped up the gas line and had the fire company and all that. Yeah, it was great. It was brilliant.
Well, see, that's what happens when a bunch of dudes get together with one of those little ditch diggers that you had over there.
Yeah.
I saw a couple pictures on Instagram. I was jealous.
Yeah, big excavator. It was fun.
Yeah, secretly, that's what I want to do with my life is just drive heavy moving equipment.
Well, you go down to Vegas, they actually let you rent those things.
Yeah, I've heard. They've got like a little theme park kind of thing, grown-up sandbox that you can go rent, dump trucks and backhoes and whatever and go just dig dirt.
It's a lot of fun, actually. I kind of spent a little more time than I should have in the excavator just because.
Yeah, for me, it sounds like a party.
For one, it's air conditioned, so I would just jump in it just because it was cooler. It was so hot out. It was retarded.
Awesome. Well, yeah, no, that's like sort of the grand fantasy one of these days, rich, famous, retirement, and I want to get like a bulldozer or some kind of like excavator or something.
Just to turn, just to go to the gas station.
I just want to make ramps all day. I know that's like a weird thing because I don't want to ride the ramps or jump off the ramps. I just want to build ramps.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just feel like that's the thing you do if you got like a Bobcat or something, you just dig dirt and build ramps.
We'll use your kids as test dummies.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
The trajectory's right.
Yeah, the little one I'd love.
Sorry, the landing's a little off.
Well, there's only one way to find out if my ramps are any good, and that's to make somebody use them.
Well, good deal. So,
yeah. Well, good. Well, that sounds like an adventure.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It seemed like nonstop work this week. I programmed some lighting at Center Street. We got some intelligent lights put in and had a bunch of uplights and stuff that we did some sequencing patterns to so that it, you can tap it to the beat of the music and all the lights go to the actual beat versus just an automated program system.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, no, we just, the big thing I was working on this week was trying to develop a digital marketing strategy for a healthcare company. Luckily I'm not doing it alone. We've got a whole team of people here that are really good, but man, it took some time to get it done and we had no time to do it.
I mean, didn't you say they're doing some mailers, like 18 million mailers?
Oh yeah, no, direct mail is a piece of this. Digital strategy is a big piece of it. There's a lot going on. So anyway, it's a crazy deal right now, but we got the proposal off today. It was due by about 2:00 today. So they finally sent it off a couple hours ago. I was really excited to have it done.
Sweet.
Yeah. Big week. So anyway, with that, we want to get into the subject or the topic for today. We want to talk a little bit about promotion, promotion of self, promotion of business, promotion of everything. It all sort of ties together. But we wanted to talk a little bit about some things that we've figured out along the way. The ways that we've approached promotion have covered the gamut. We not only do the type of work we do now, but we've done a million things in the past. So like for myself, I've had a clothing company, my little design shop, me personally, as a consultant and other things. So I've had to do marketing or self-promotion for a number of different things across a number of different arenas. And Mike's had a few different also.
Yeah, I've done everything from direct mailers to paying for Facebook ads and all sorts of stuff, just trying to see what works.
Yeah,
and
promoting either the DJ brand or the entertainment company or
concerts
yeah,
back in the
concerts
day.
Back
I
in
used
the
to
day.
do the MySpace robot back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Remember that?
Yes.
You go through and you just add 1 million friends you don't even know and then tell them to come to the
Yeah,
show.
no, it's funny. I actually went to MySpace the other day. It was a blast from the past. I honestly can't believe it's still up.
I want to get on there so I can delete my stuff because there's so much garbage from old, like I can't even remember the password. I don't even know what email I used for
Yeah,
it.
God knows if even any of that old stuff works anymore.
Well, even that, it'd be fun to find my old quote unquote friends.
right.
The people I actually kind of communicated with back in the 2000s.
Yeah, no, I mean, it must still, have some relevance. People must still use it. Unfortunately
what I've
don't know
heard
anything
is
about
it's
it,
bigger in like Asia or in like the UK, kind of like Facebook's
yeah, maybe
big
it's
here,
got a
but-
home somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, like, for example, I use WhatsApp to communicate with all the people over in Europe that do work for us in Spain and everything.
Yeah.
And but like I know in China they use WeChat, and that's the most popular one over there, as far as I understand.
It's weird to think that there's different, cultures out there that use different products other than Facebook.
Well, yeah, it's funny because they all more or less do the same thing. So it's funny that they've each sought out their own deal. But yeah, I have a client that goes back and forth to China a lot, so he had me get on WeChat so that we could communicate. So yeah. So anyway, kind of funny. I think ultimately he switched over to WhatsApp though, because I think more people
the majority
worldwide are using it.
Yeah, I have a friend from South Africa that uses it, and that's the only thing he uses.
Yeah. Well, and for a lot of people over there, they don't have, like a cell phone necessarily. They just use Wi-Fi, so they can use WhatsApp or
And still
WeChat
text
or whatever
and- yeah.
to do texting and messaging and all that stuff. And also now you can call and do video chat and everything through it.
Really?
Maybe not video.
That's cool.
Pretty sure though. But you can definitely do voice and all that. So
I haven't used it in a long time.
yeah, no. WhatsApp's great. I use it all the time. So, but anyway, back to the topic of the day. We wanted to talk about this idea of self-promotion, how to, develop a personal brand or a company brand or whatever it is you want to actually push. And just some different tricks, techniques, different things to keep in mind as you're doing this. Whether you're trying to start your own company, you're working for somebody, and you're looking for a promotion at work, and you're looking for a way to stand out. There's a number of different applications for the stuff we're going to talk about, but a lot of it has to do with just promoting yourself, how to carry yourself, that kind of thing.
This actually came up because I was going through my bookshelf looking for a book for this week to add to our book club. And I came across this book, 101 Ways to Promote Yourself. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I stole that from you.
I don't think you stole it. I think at some point we were talking about trying to do something together or something. I don't know. And I think I either gave it to you or lent it to you or whatever. But.
Well, I brought it to return to you.
Oh, good. back to
So
its
now
rightful
you'll have
owner.
101 ways to promote yourself.
Yeah, I think the book's about $3 on Amazon at this point. So
It's a little steep for my blood.
So anyway, all right. Well, to get into it, so the first thing I wanted to cover, and really this one should probably come later because it's a little bit of a cleanup hitter, because it's one of the most core things that you can do, either in a business or in life, really. But it's as simple as just raising your hand.
Yeah.
And
Volunteering.
Yeah, volunteer work, whatever. And so it's like whether you're promoting yourself at work, you're promoting a business, a service, just raising your hand can literally be the most effective way to get yourself noticed. Maybe, if you see a coworker who's shorthanded, or maybe you've got a client who's in need of some new ideas, or even a company that needs some advice on dealing with some kind of problem, or all the way down to, little old lady trying to cross the street.
Screw the old lady.
Whatever it is. If you can pitch in, pitch in.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is, by raising your hand, you can start to promote yourself as an expert in your field, or as a go-getter, or as a...
That to me is hard, because I've been to school for audio recording and engineering and stuff like that, but even just acknowledging the fact that I'm an expert in my quote-unquote field, it's just, I know the stuff, but taking that step and saying, hey, I'm an expert, is kind of...
Well, it's true, and it's a little bit of a perspective shift, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, if you think you're the best, you're probably super obnoxious, and nobody wants to hang out with you anyway. So, but by establishing yourself as an expert in your field and offering your opinion to the uninformed, you can sort of quickly become a go-to person, and I mean, in my experience, it was exactly that. When I used to work for the agency in Utah, for example, I had been working in my company for a long time, and I was calling myself an agency, but I'd never actually set foot in one. And so I set out and reached out to, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 agencies in Salt Lake. At the time, I was living in Idaho, so Salt Lake was the nearest big city. I reached out to 8 or 10 different agencies. I sent them just emails saying, hey, I'm interested in learning a little something about the agency business. I'm willing to trade you a month of free creative. I'll just come down and I'll work for you for free in exchange for learning a little bit about the agency, being allowed to be a fly on the wall and sort of see how an agency works, all that stuff. So this is actually something we're going to get into a little later with the idea of working for free. But, again, I manufactured the reason, but still I'm standing outside the building raising my hand, waving my hand, trying to get attention.
Well, just the fact that you sent 10 emails out to various companies saying, hey, I just want to learn, that right there, I mean, that says a lot just for your character versus the person that comes in and applies for the job with zero agency experience, and you're willing to do it for free just to learn, which is great.
Well, and it's funny because with this particular agency, with the shop I ended up ultimately working for, it worked like a charm. They saw that in me. They saw the character. They saw that was an exceptional thing to do, and were willing to take a chance on me. I have since talked to most of the other agencies I've sent things to as I've come up a little bit in my career in Salt Lake area. And, and most of them have said, well, yeah, man, we got your letter, but it's like crazy. We don't want to give away secrets. We don't want you knowing what clients we're doing, and it's funny how like protective everybody was.
Well, that's the same way in the DJ industry though. Everyone kind of, I've tried a few times to try and get people together, but they all want to kind of go for their own,
Oh yeah, for sure. It's really cutthroat. It's really competitive. And so, I mean, I understand their logic. I understand how they feel. But at the same time, the agency that did take me in, I think it says something about them and their character that they were open enough to just let a kid learn.
Yeah.
And so basically what happened is I went down and I spent a month working for them for free. And like I dictated in our deal, and like they had accepted. We were willing to, or they were willing to let me sit in on meetings and go to things that were a little above my pay grade, just so that I could learn a little bit about the business and how it flowed and how it worked. And I worked my ass off in that, in that period of time, in that month. I mean, I worked a lot of long hours and, really trying hard to make a good impression.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I didn't have any expectation that it would become anything other than this. But eventually, but I wanted to make sure that I was doing the best I could and sort of representing myself as well as I could, so that maybe they had a job, maybe they didn't.
Well,
maybe I just
turned out into a job later on.
Yeah. Now it's funny because it took 2 years.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because when a lot of people think about raising your hand, it's sort of, I see a problem, I'm raising my hand, I'm willing to jump in and fix it.
Yeah.
But this maybe applies more to the concept of working for free and the importance of working for free. Basically what happened is, ultimately when I finished up my month here, they gave me a little bonus check, just a thank you. I mean, they were really gracious, really, really great. At the time, they didn't have any positions open or anything. So I just went back to my business. But 2 years later, we had a guy who is a really great designer, actually, who was going out on his own, decided to go out on his own and left an opening here at the agency. And so they asked me if I'd be interested in coming down. And so I did. I continued to run my company at night and, weird hours, but basically came to work for the agency for a period of about 3 years. And but it was all because I raised my hand and I came down here and I really, took that opportunity to show them my stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of a similar story, but, not really in the same field. So, when I first was switching from doing like mobile gigs and being a mobile DJ, showing up, doing school dances and weddings and, whatever I could do, I wanted to get my foot in the door doing clubs. And clubs are kind of a unique thing in and of itself.
Sure.
And, going from just play and stop, like I did zero mixing. I just let a song play all the way through and had another one queued up and switched over to it when the song was over. And so I had to learn how to DJ a completely different way than I'd ever done. And I probably didn't go about this the right way, but I would be the guy in the back corner just watching everything that the DJs in the clubs would do. I'd go pay to get into a club just to watch them do it. And
that's the thing. I mean, there's not a guidebook. How else would you have done it?
There isn't, but it's, I could have at least introduced myself to the DJ and been like, hey, instead, now that I'm in the club and I'm DJing at different locations, there's nothing more annoying and frustrating to have some guy just sit there and watch you all night. And I was that guy for a long time.
Sure.
And by doing that, I kind of, worked my way into one place. And I started in a bowling alley. The first weekly recurring place was a bowling alley, and that kind of switched from there into I got my feet wet per se to actually know how to mix. And then they started doing this thing every Tuesday night or Thursday night or something that was like open mic night for DJs at this place in Seattle. And so a bunch of us would all just come and play. And the worst part for me was going between one DJ to like someone's already playing and then I'm jumping on. And to do that, you have to go and beat match by ear. Because he's playing on one side and he's got his computer playing one song and I got my computer on the other side. And you can't, like in Serato, you can kind of visually line the beats up and then kind of drop it and you're close.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, Serato is some DJ software. I think we talked about it on an earlier
Yeah, we
show,
covered it on the first show.
Yeah, it's a computerized way of working vinyl for
but
a DJ.
Coming into this like Tuesday gig, yeah, it's all fun and games, but you're playing in front of all the big, like, there's a lot of the big Seattle DJs that would come to this just to hang out and have a few drinks and socialize. And, I'm up and coming. I don't know what I'm doing. And if I train wreck during the changeover, it looks bad on me. But eventually, after 4 or 5 years of just raising my hand and showing up at different places, and I would show up just to, say hi to someone who's playing and just kind of see what they're doing a little bit, kind of maybe pick up a trick here and there. And one night I showed up and the DJ's like, hey, you want to close out for me? I'm like,
yeah,
sure.
Of course.
Yeah. Well,
crapping your pants all
yeah,
the while.
Exactly. The whole time I'm like, no, but okay. And I jumped on and it was on his laptop and I was able to, do a really good job. And because of that, he opened some doors for me and I was able to get my foot in a few clubs. And it was, just being dedicated and coming out and willing to work for free and willing to learn and willing to, just be there on a night that I'm not working when I could be at home playing video games.
Sure. Well, yeah. And I mean, ultimately, I think this idea of raising your hand is probably among the, best character traits that you can sort of build into yourself as a human being. And, whether it's being in service of others or whatever your scenario is, but that willingness to raise your hand all the time is, like you said, it's a really good judge of character.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on, I want to talk a little bit about just sort of doing self-promotion, but with some subtlety.
Okay.
We alluded to it a little bit in raising your hand or, about we don't want to be super obnoxious. You don't want to be the guy who thinks he can do everything. Even if you can do everything, but having that sort of level of confidence sometimes can be off-putting.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to just sort of, look at the way you're promoting yourself, whatever different methods you're choosing, and trying to be a little bit subtle or a little bit tactful in the way that you do it so that you can, be sure to not be putting people off through your efforts. You're actually trying to do a good thing, but you're putting people off.
Yeah. It's really hard these days with the inundation that we get with, email blasts and just everything is just thrown at us. And it's hard to not be obnoxious with it, but still kind of try and get your thing out there. But
yeah, I mean, and the way that I was thinking about it is, be out there, but don't beat people around the head, about the head with this.
Yeah.
Go ahead and be loud enough to be noticed, but just be sure that your messaging's on point, everything you're putting out's of good quality, and that it represents you and your product or whatever in the best possible light. Basically, to take it all the way back to the golden rule, basically if you don't have anything good or of quality or whatever to say, then don't say anything at all.
I actually used to be really bad about just whining and complaining about stupid crap on social media.
Sure.
And not really filtering myself. And then I realized, like everything I say on here is going to haunt me one day.
Yeah.
And
and I know, like, even for myself, like, especially when I was younger, you don't really know how to promote yourself. You're going out there and you're trying to do the best you can. And you think the way to do that is say, oh, I'm the best. I'm the pro. I can do this and that, and it's really to kind of puff out your chest a little bit. And I think that, or the point I'm trying to make with the subtlety is, it's okay to be confident, but rather than say it, just do it.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's just, it's better to be good than to tell everyone how good you are. So, and so to kind of move into the next thing, you brought up social media. I think social media is a good way to promote yourself. Myself, I probably am not as active on social media as I could be, but what I did to maybe be a little better about it is I limited the number of channels that we use. So for me, the thing with social media is, really you need to use it. And if you don't use it, then just stay off it.
Yeah.
So, and by that, I mean, it's not really about setting up the account, but rather posting quality material that will actually resonate with the people who view it. So they'll share it, repost it, whatever. And you can actually use it as a tool for self-promotion. If you just set up a Facebook account and leave it static, you're not doing yourself any good. You're not helping yourself.
Yeah. And if all you do is post about personal stuff, you're not doing any good either. I have 2 accounts. One that's a business page for DJ Ontic, and one for me that's, if I see something weird that I think's funny, I'll share it on my personal page. But anything business related, I share on the
and I think
page.
That's good advice. Sort of separate things and keep the content matter that you're publishing. If you run a DJ business, then let's talk about your industry. Let's talk about upcoming gigs. Let's talk about things like that.
Every time I'm at a wedding or I'm at a gig that's fun, I'll take a short video and I've kind of switched to just using Instagram, and I use Instagram to feed to my DJ page and my personal page and Twitter. So then I can just take a quick picture and it updates all 3 of them, and I don't spend time going through the Twitter timeline or all that other stuff.
So you did mention, and you may have brought it up in an earlier show too, but I think it's worth repeating here. You mentioned how you sort of transitioned into using Facebook and using sources like that to follow up a little better with your clients.
Yeah.
And you've seen some good results from that.
I've actually, if I do a wedding and the bride and groom or, the client in general just seems like a cool person where we kind of relate a little bit, I'll add him as a friend. And then that way I can, like a post occasionally here and there. And then if one of their friends needs a DJ or needs something, then, I'm first on the list,
it's maintaining a presence of mind. And really, this is jumping ahead a little bit into our discussion. We'll have it a little bit later about networking. But, I mean, this social media is basically a networking tool. I've broken it out, separately as a standalone item here, but it really is a part of networking. And so as you found, by going back and, just liking some post every now and then or whatever, you're generating a little top-level awareness. And you're showing up on their feed, you're doing different things. And, then like you said, next time their, buddy needs a DJ or whatever, maybe you're first on the list because they still remember you.
Yeah. Little things always, help. Just simple liking a photo or something like that. You never know what that can do. I would estimate that I pick up 7 or 8 gigs a year just because of my Facebook page.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So in your industry, it's valuable.
Yeah. And I honestly wish I could not have it because I have too many things on my plate to even deal with it. But
sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I mean, in that vein, like basically we've reeled back at R2. We basically live most of our life on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. Well, you're art related, so visual.
So
helps.
they're perfect for us, right? And I mean, I'll occasionally post a pair of shoes or something personal because basically the account sort of evolved out of my personal account. But we, basically my thought was that I had, every social media channel, and then it became clear that just we weren't keeping up on them, we weren't maintaining them, and it didn't make sense to keep all those channels going.
Well, it's a waste of effort.
It's a waste of effort. It's a waste of time. And like we said at the top of this section, it doesn't make any sense to just have the account and not use it. If you're not using it, it's not
and if
doing
you
it.
have it and you're using it once every 6 months, it's
Why
useless. Or if you have so many of them and you can't spend time to do it quality, like actually do a good post and spend some time on it, then there's no reason to do it.
Well, yeah, it's like anything, there's a balance there. And so in our mind, we focused on the 2 social channels that we do best on, and that's where we spend the lion's share of our time. So continuing on, but sort of in that same vein, I wanted to just touch briefly on blogs.
Sure.
They've been around a long time. People are, it's not like necessarily new tech. But in terms of self-promotion, and this goes back to this idea of establishing yourself as an expert, blogs and blog posts can be really beneficial to somebody who's trying to be established as an expert in some field, whatever it is.
They can also be detrimental too.
Yeah, of course, if you're a bad
spew
writer
a bunch
or
of crap
whatever.
and don't really know, it could reveal stuff about you that you might not want people knowing.
Sure, yeah, no, it's true. And so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because, of course, you need to generate decent content. But I do think it can be a good and powerful way to create content, share content, and establish yourself as either an expert or, somehow share some expertise or whatever, even just philanthropically or whatever, maybe you know how to do something pretty well, or you've invented a better way of doing something or whatever, and you just like to share information, even for no profit, just for fun. And so, but on the other side of that coin, the other thing you can do that can sort of help raise some awareness or drive traffic to your website, so in terms of self-promotion, is to go to blogs, follow the blogs of other people, related people, businessmen you like to follow, other agencies, other DJs in your case, and then go ahead, read their content, comment on it, and leave links back to your site where people can see related content.
So a few weeks ago, we were talking about that book by Todd Henry, The Accidental Creative.
Yeah.
It happened to be on the same weekend. It was 6 years since he wrote the book and published it. So he had shared something. Z-Trip, that DJ I was talking about, reposted it and was like, hey, I'm not even getting paid for this, but check it out. It's been 6 years. If you haven't read the book, check it out. So I commented on it, and the next day, both Z-Trip and Todd Henry liked the comment.
Yeah,
so
that's fantastic.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. But it's also sort of the power of social media, right? I mean, these people are accessible and easy to get to through their social media channels.
Yep.
So, that's a great opportunity for us to now introduce ourselves, talk about the show, whatever it is, and maybe get a relationship or a dialogue going with those people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool.
Hopefully it might spin into something later on down the road.
Yeah, it's cool, just like how small the world is, Yeah. So to sort of get out of, social media or tools like that, I want to talk a little bit about branding. Now, a lot of times branding is associated with a business or a logo or a product. In this case, I want to talk about those things, but I also want to lean a little bit more on sort of your personal brand. And we talked a little bit about this in Raising Your Hand, that sort of helps develop a personal brand, or in terms of people seeing you a certain way, the same way that they might see Kellogg's or whatever, because of their brand. They might see you as a hand raiser or an expert or a helper or a whatever.
Just willing to go the extra mile.
Right. Yeah. And that willingness to go an extra mile goes a long way in a number of different facets. So, but what we thought, or one thought is, so if you're trying to create a brand in a literal sense, this might be on everything you produce. Make sure that you've got your logo on it or your name on it or whatever it is. So you'll notice, if you go to an accountant, they'll give you a file folder with their name on it. If you go to, doctor's office, their prescription pads got their name on it. But everybody's sticking their name on everything. And you should do that too, just as sort of a way to leave behind a little lingering memory of you.
Heck, I went to the vet the other day and took my dog in there, and they gave me a dog ID tag that had their contact info on the back and the dog's name on the front. So, in case it was lost, you could take him back to the vet, and little stuff like that. They send mailers out once a year when it's time for the vaccines and stuff like that. So,
yeah. And that's, the moral of the story is just brand everything. The more you can stick your name out there, the more likely you are to be remembered.
After you did my new logo, the one that's about a year old, I made some stickers, and back, when I first started making mixes, I would burn CDs and I would just handwrite, the name of the CD and DJ Ontic on it. And now every CD that I give out, I put a sticker in it in hopes that, it might end up on someone's laptop or someone's car or whatever. And it,
not to toot my own horn, but it's a cool sticker.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
So, but like we were sort of alluding to, more than just branding, a business card, branding can take sort of many shapes and sizes. It's not all about those business cards with presentation folders. Of course it can be those things, and it really should be, but your general demeanor and the way that you behave day to day, your attitude, your skill set, your ability to play well with others, all those things are sort of indicators of your character.
Yeah, it's your moral fiber. That people want to work with people that they trust, that and they can associate with. And
it's key that they know you, like you, trust you.
Yep.
And like and trust are pretty well related. If they don't like you, they're not going to trust you in all likelihood.
And if you're an annoying person in general, they're not going to want to work with you.
No, it's true. And so, but all those things, your attitude, your skill set, and your ability to work with other people, all those can be big contributors to your personal brand. So, talking about character equals personal brand.
Yeah.
And so, and the same is true of your company. If you have a company that's known for doing good things, known for giving back, known for whatever, those can all be contributors to your company's brand.
Yep. So I kind of want to go off on a tangent, but
go nuts.
I do and don't. So you've heard that business, most businesses take 3 or 4 times before you hit one that takes off. I've had probably 5 or 6 businesses over my lifespan, and I've had ups and downs. And I had a cell phone store at one point. I had the promotion company down in Phoenix, and moved up to Idaho and had one there too. And there's been multiple times in my life where I've kind of lost my ass, per se. And that is hard to admit. It's hard to, swallow. And just the fact that, I've lost some personal friends because of financial obligations that I couldn't meet, because I just, put a show together and it tanked, and then what do you do? And the moral side of it is for me it's very hard to move past. It's hard to acknowledge the fact that you screwed up, and how do you move on from there? And when I moved to Seattle, it was me kind of acknowledging that fact and moving on, that from here on out I'm not going to put myself in a situation to lose my ass again. And it's I've worked very hard to keep that. I've worked very hard on my personal image to make sure that I'm not that guy that screws people over.
And that's the thing is, it's an evolution.
Yeah.
You started into business pretty young, and
Yeah, I started into business when I was 14.
Yeah,
so
you're young.
The learning curve was hard.
Sure.
I took a lot of risks that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And actually I'm kind of glad that I broached this topic, because it's something that I think about daily. I still have 2 or 3 people that I owe money to.
Yeah.
And I've done as much as I can financially and still be able to live, and I'm still going to pay these people off, even though it's not even on my credit anymore. It's been long enough where it's fallen off. But me personally, it bugs the hell out of me that a friend of mine in Phoenix I still owe some money to, and it drives me nuts. But
and that's the thing. Like, I can think of one example that is a mutual friend of ours that basically we were a little bit in the rears with them after an event, and I don't know what it was.
That wasn't even you. That was me. That was
well, I know, but I knew them. We I was with you. We sort of went in on this thing together. But the point was, or the thing that really is indicative of your character, and I think sort of sums up what you're saying, is that when you were able to pay them back, even though it was, a couple of years later, it was completely off radar, it was not something they expected. when you came in and you handed him that check, it was like instantly all was forgiven.
Yeah.
It's like, it had been awkward and weird to be around those guys. It had been other problems. But then as soon as that was done, even though it was years in the past, the fact that you came around and you made good,
yeah,
I think was really meaningful to those guys.
Definitely felt
it wasn't really
good.
about the money.
It wasn't about the money. It was more about my moral character, that I felt like, I owed them the money. I had to pay it up, and it felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders when I got it taken care of. And I even still, like, after that, I wouldn't even go to their shows just because I was like, I didn't want to. It was very awkward. And even though it's paid up and good, it would be nice to maybe meet up with them sometime and just have a few beers and kind of chat. But,
yeah, well, and that's the thing. For them, I think at this point it's all water under the bridge.
Yeah.
But it was kind of yucky for a while.
Yeah.
And, I would want to go to a show and go see these guys
I'm like,
perform.
no, I ain't going.
But you'd be like, I'm busy. I can't do it. Not today. But it became, and I can understand the awkwardness or where that came from. And, unfortunately, there were circumstances. There were reasons you weren't able to pay them. It wasn't just because you didn't want to. That we didn't make the money back.
We didn't get the ticket sales.
So it's unfortunate.
And it was a pyramiding. It was like, one show did great, and then I had 2 or 3 lined up afterwards, and it just, the next one flopped, the next one flopped, the next one flopped, and
by the time I got to them,
I had moved markets, and I did a little stint in Idaho for a little bit, and I tried to bite off more than I could chew, and I took a lot of risks that I shouldn't have.
Well, and in your case, it's a live and learn. In their case, it was a bummer for a moment, and I'm sure at the moment it sucked. Although, I know them well enough to know that it didn't really, it didn't break them or anything. It's not like they could make it to the next city without it. But at the same time, the fact that you came back around and made it right, I think is really, the most important part of the story.
It mainly is just, if you everywhere you go, you just screw people over, you're not going to get work. You're not going to get, it.
Well, especially now. The world is smaller now than it's ever been
because of social media.
Because of social media and the internet. There's no hiding anymore.
Look at the DJ Khaled thing the other day. Did you hear about that?
Oh,
EDC or whatever. Like, evidently he just bombed horribly, and now it's like his career just one show
down with it.
Down. And so, back in the day, like, if you're a shady promoter, you just,
and God knows we've met plenty of them.
Yeah. Well, like, news will follow you these days with social media, with Twitter, with all this other stuff. If you do something shady, look at that big festival that's
the one with Ja Rule and
all that. They're never going to be able to do something like that again.
Yeah.
So. But anyways, sorry to go off on that spiel. I don't even know how we got down on it, but pretty much your moral character, the way you treat other people and your business dealings, will haunt you.
Yeah. Well, and actually, we're going through this sort of list of things to do with self-promotion and things like that, but I think that this is a really good topic to sort of talk about because it's true. And all the things we're talking about here sort of lead to that. We're talking about sort of different character traits that are desirable in somebody. We got off a little bit into social media and stuff, but raising your hand and networking, working for free, all those things and the willingness to do those things are part of a person's sort of character and part of a person's build-up.
Yeah.
And so, and in your case, even if you weren't able to at the moment service a debt or whatever, the fact that you circled back around and made good, says a lot about you as a person. And, I know just from being close to you, but over these last few years, you've done a lot of work to change your image, change the way people see you, you're sort of, bottom line is you've matured.
Yeah. And essentially I just kind of realized, I woke up one day and was like, man, I need to be a different person. And I went around and picked out the points in my life that I knew I was lacking at and started focusing on them. And, a few years later, I feel like a completely different person. I feel 100% different.
Well, and I see it in you. I see the projects you're working on and all this stuff. You've definitely upped your game. Professionally, you're doing better. Everything you're doing better. And, but I will also say that you wouldn't have got here if it wasn't for all that.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't.
And so
I would like to say that everyone would say hindsight 2020. If I could go back, I'd do it so differently. But I wouldn't know what to do differently if I could go back. I'd do the same mistakes.
Well,
I did
and it's funny because like even though some of these old mistakes and these old problems, you see them sort of as old problems and things like that. But I mean, I can just tell you for me, because like I'm inherently not a risk taker, inherently not a gambler. I will always try and do the safest, most,
and
path of least resistance.
You were the reason that kind of I realized I can't take these risks anymore.
Yeah, but I will say that I was always like a little bit jealous or a little bit envious that you were willing to kind of go big and go home.
Well, I didn't
or go home.
I didn't have a family. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife or a mortgage or all that
Sure.
stuff. So if I lost my
and
ass,
obviously that steered it a little bit. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, I thought it was, always a characteristic that I liked in you that you were willing to go try. I mean, I've always been an advocate of you in that you're hardest working guy I know. You were always first one there, last one to leave. I remember like just little things like, when we worked, what was it, the Fiesta Bowl?
Yeah.
And we were down there and we were working with a group and had put up a big truss system, basically built an outdoor nightclub.
I actually have some photos of that. I'll post them for you.
Yeah, really cool stuff. But we were there by 2 or 3 in the afternoon to start getting ready and set up, and we were there until 3 in the morning, tearing down, and in Arizona. It's and in this situation it was really complicated.
Yeah, we would bring in probably 16 to 20 intelligent lights wired all up. This back in the day before it was LED, so we had to rent a generator and bring that in, and power was a huge issue. And we used to do that on a weekly basis during prom season and homecomings. We would go out and we'd set up huge roof systems for schools and essentially make their gymnasium a nightclub for a day. And it was a lot of work, a lot of fun. I remember one Sunday morning after a few weeks of doing proms, I was driving home at like 8 in the morning. I hadn't slept in 2 or 3 days and pulled over on the side of the road and just threw up. And I thought it was blood, but it was Pepto-Bismol. So I at least I didn't have an ulcer, but I felt like I should have.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, I working alongside you had a lot of really cool experiences down in Arizona, especially. And, but I've always sort of admired your work ethic and everything else. And that's why, now that, you've calmed down a little bit, you're not taking as risky of moves anymore. You're still doing things that are big and sort of indicative of your character or your personality. Like this new project that you're working on now, the web project. I mean, it's huge. It's massive. It's a huge undertaking. And now you're working your way all the way through the process. You started at the beginning and you're fighting it all the way to the end.
Instead of just jumping in, head first and not knowing what I guess I did jump in head first, not knowing what I'm doing. But what I meant is, I'm making sure I have my ducks in a row before I take any risks that might get me in trouble. You know, like I don't book a concert and not have the money up front to pay for everything, Well,
yeah, and some of that's age and experience and all those things. But I mean, just to speak to ethic, I mean, you wanted to build a website. So you started to learn how to program. Yeah. You wanted to, it's the same way you handle DJing. You wanted to DJ, you watched people do it, then you just got into the nitty gritty and you did it. Yeah. And, and I think that that's a characteristic to be admired. Now, the parts where, things go off the rails or businesses fail or mistakes are made, that's all part of the process, and it sucks for those burned along the way, but I mean, it's pretty common, a lot of businesses fail, a lot of businesses,
and the thing is
in much more grand ways than anything you ever failed at.
Oh, I know. And I know, my problems are small in comparison to a lot of people, but, it's still inside it drives me nuts to know that, I still owe money to a few people, and it's it's something that I'm going to take care of. It's something that I've been working on really hard for. Maybe we should do a whole show on cleaning up debt and taking care of all that stuff, because it's a whole topic in and of itself. But yeah. Well,
and I mean that's the thing. I just think that there's something to be learned from that. It is okay to fail. It's not like this badge of shame, that's on you. I mean, I've been pretty lucky. The businesses I've been involved with, nothing's really failed spectacularly. But at the same time, we've had things fizzle.
Yeah.
Stuff that started out going really well and then fizzles off. Or, I mean, as you know, I'm idea guy all day long, and so like I might start something, get fired up about it, and then it just fizzles and dies. And so in my sort of more safe, less risky kind of way. I've got my fails too.
Yeah.
They just weren't as grand and spectacular and filled with fireworks and fire and gunshots and everything else.
Well, and like I said, that's something that I kind of like watched you and realized, hey, he's kind of doing this differently in a good way, and I should try and do things more like that. So it actually, it's been good for me.
Yeah. Well, no, and I think it's really cool that you sort of brought some of that stuff up because it's, it's never easy to sort of admit fails or admit flaws or any of that stuff. And, but I think it's important because, obviously we've all got them. We've all got our own skeletons. Everybody's done their own, wrong thing or whatever it is. And, and owning it is a big character trait. Think about if you were trying to hire somebody or you're going to go into business with somebody. Do you want the guy that will admit to, having, or just who will be completely honest with you and say, hey, look, I think this or that, or, whatever. I think having a person that can be sort of open and honest is such a valuable characteristic that, I think it's really good. And to use a forum like this to sort of have that discussion, I think can help other people, who might feel disenfranchised or bummed out.
I know I'm not the only one that has had credit issues in the past and had problems with, finances.
No, I think it's actually the lion's share of our country at this point.
Oh, guaranteed. And student loans, all sorts of stuff rack up. I was hesitant to even bringing it up, but now that we're here, it's kind of nice to just get that off my chest, just to kind of, okay, it's out there now, you know about it, and we can discuss it in the future, whatever. But I was really hesitant even starting this podcast just because of that, just because, it's bound to come up, business failings and success and whatever. It's what we're talking about. It's something that, we're trying to help people who are trying to step out on that limb, trying to start their own business or do their own thing or be creative, and failure is part of it. And, maybe you haven't been through the gauntlet like me, but, it's like, I have.
I've been close enough to you that I've been able to watch it. So I feel like I got a lot of things out of that experience.
So,
too.
Anyways, moral fiber: try and pay your bills. try not to screw people if you.
Well,
can
I think it's really important. Obviously, this podcast is something that we decided to do. A, as a channel of self promotion. B, as a way of sharing what knowledge we've got, and part of that knowledge comes from failure. And so if we're not willing to share our failures, there's no way of getting to where we, discussing where we are if we can't talk about where we came from.
So
I think it's important. I think it's valuable, and I think it's worth doing. And no doubt,
looking back though, like some of the experiences I've had just through the promoting part of things and the, just the risks that I took, if I wasn't so, gung-ho and eager to do stuff and willing to do stuff, a lot of these experiences, like just everything in general, a lot of them might not even happen. Like I tell some of these stories to my friends and they're like, yeah, uh-huh. I'm like, no, I'm telling the truth.
No, it's cool. Well, it definitely makes for a colorful backstory. And not everybody has one of those. So so I think it's cool, and that's the thing. Obviously it doesn't make any sense to dwell or feel bad for anything in the past. It's done, it's over with. There's nothing you can do to change it now. So all we can do is evolve and grow and get better and work harder or solve things in a better way or a different way.
Yeah. And hopefully my shortcomings and my mistakes that I've made maybe can help some of you listening to avoid making the same ones.
Well, and no doubt as we go, we'll get into more of those kinds of things and how they might apply to, fostering your eggs or, whatever it is, even if it's just life. Just talking about life. Not everything has to have an agenda.
Exactly. What's next on the cheat sheet?
Here's what I want to do. Because we took that tangent, I kind of like the stuff we were about to get into with our little discussion on raising your hand and self promotion, all that stuff. We were really going to start getting into the meat of things. Talking a lot about sort of networking, public service, some of these other things, and they're all kind of big topics on their own.
Sure.
So
want to do another episode for next week?
Why don't we hang on to that one?
Sure.
And circle around to it next week so we can give it the time. I'm afraid that if we try and just bust it out, I mean, we're at 50 minutes already. And so I think if we really try to just bust through it, we're not going to give enough attention to these things because they're big subjects. They're important. And I think it's stuff that we ought to spend some time on. So,
well, let's brainstorm about it.
Let's make this a part one.
Okay.
And we'll circle back around next week and hit it again.
Sounds like a plan. Sorry to sidetrack you.
Well, no worries. So let me get through the plugs and all the good stuff at the end. First, our perceived value experiment is still going on. It's, for people who don't know, it was sort of a challenge to listeners to evaluate their own self-worth and, share success stories, failure stories, things like that. As especially for creatives, we're always trying to figure out how to charge or how much we should charge, so it's important to figure out what your value is or your perceived value. We've got the Spotify playlist up. Mike, do you want to talk about that?
That's actually
bit?
pretty cool. I didn't realize this, but you can embed Spotify playlists into your websites now. So instead of just having a link for you to go and open in Spotify, it's actually on our website. So when I created the playlist, what we did was I went through and found a bunch of bands that we used to work with, a bunch of music that we you probably would never hear because it's kind of underground music, and then a bunch of music that we actually like. So there's about 30 songs on there. And
I will circle around and do my part and contribute. So I've been remiss.
Well, and we would like you guys to actually suggest songs. So if there's anything you like,
just drop us a note through the email or on social media, whatever, and we'll get to that here in a second. Next thing I wanted to touch on real fast is the Eggs Book Club. Each week we're trying to pick a book and add to our pile of books. Different resources that you guys can use in your business or in your life. This week we talked to a little bit the book that Mike stole from me, 100 Ways to Promote Yourself by Raleigh Pinsky. I think it offers up a number of helpful suggestions. Well, actually, 101 of them specifically, but it can serve as a great thought starter. There's a lot of things in there that are a little bit self-serving that aren't my favorite subjects in the world. Or aren't my favorite solutions.
Yeah, the idea of the book is just to get ideas.
Well, and that's what I like about it. It's a list of 100 ideas, and any one of them, you can sort of apply your stamp to.
Yeah.
And do something with it. Also, the beauty of the thing is it's only it's like literally $4 or something on Amazon. I think it might be out of print.
Little paperback.
I think it's a worthy book to add to your bookshelf. So we'll put some links in the show notes for that.
Cool.
If you want to learn more about me, Ryan, or my company, R2 Media Group, and our offices in Salt Lake City and Spain, Barcelona, you can find us at r2mg.com or at R2MG on Twitter or at R2 Media Group on Instagram.
And you can find me at djontic, ONTIC.com and Twitter /DJontic.
Yeah, and then for the show itself, you can find us at eggscast.com. You can find all the recent episodes, show notes, everything you need to find about the show. The website's going to continue to grow. We'll have more news, more content, more interesting things as we go. But for now, you can go there and get the show. You can also follow us on the social media channels, Twitter and Instagram, at Eggs Show. And with that, I guess the only other thing I wanted to mention is you can catch the show now on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and also on Stitcher.
Nice.
So we finally got approved by Stitcher. So we're on all three of those networks now. So we're literally everywhere. Any place you want to find podcasts, you can find us. And I guess you already did since you're listening. But anyway, it was exciting to get approved for another service. So we were really happy about it.
So we'll be back next week with the finishing touches.
Yeah, we'll circle back around. We'll hit networking and all that good stuff next week.
Good deal.
Thanks so much. Have a good week. We'll talk soon.
All right. Catch you later.